The Belt and Road Initiative is truly a project of unprecedented scale. What interests me is who is the true benefactor of the Belt and Road Initiative, and that is the common man. Even companies like mine, we have been a direct benefactor of the Belt and Road Initiative because companies have more interest in how this initiative can help them and how can they be a part of it. Being a Russian citizen, of course, the Belt and Road Initiative gave me a spectacular new opportunity to connect with my country through establishing ties with Russian SOEs, Russian businesses of all sizes.
Serge, thank you very much for joining us. Tell us about your story and your connection with the Belt and Road Initiative.
My family came to China in 1996 because my father was a journalist and he was a sinologist as well. So he studied China, Chinese culture, Chinese language, Chinese history. So it was always his dream to be part of China. I was born in North Korea because at that time that was the closest point where he could place his roots, so to speak. But in '96 we have moved with our entire family here. So I grew up here, went to Russian embassy school, and let's say became part of the Chinese wonder and saw the entire change with my own eyes.
What is your connection to the Belt and Road Initiative?
We have established a company in 2015 that actually caters to Belt and Road Initiative countries. And we provide business consulting, cross-border investments, and financial advisory.
What made you came up with this idea?
When I was back in studying in Peking University, as Olsons, we kind of help out, you know, here and there in our free time to do procurement and, like, you know, do with negotiations or some level of translations. And by the time I already finished Peking University, my partner has just visited the first forum for Belt and Road Initiative in Astana, where President Xi Jinping said the most famous speech about the Belt and Road Initiative.
Back in 2013?
Back in 2013. And he came back very inspired. And even though President Xi Jinping has a lot of good speeches, that felt different. That felt, it was concise, it was concrete, it was strong, but at the same time it was very touching. So he came back full of energy, and we thought that this is something very interesting, and it's historic, so to speak. So we wanted to create a company that caters specifically to those ideas proclaimed by President Xi.
But why did you want to jump onto that idea? I mean, it took other people several years to realize how important it might be, and immediately you saw the value of this concept, of this initiative.
I would say it goes back to my life here as an expat, and you always lack the connection with Chinese people. There's always this distance, this gap. And
because you live in a relatively isolated compound.
Either you live in an isolated compound, or just culturally speaking, it's very difficult to bridge that gap. And but when you do, it is the most powerful emotion. When you succeed at that, and you actually make a Chinese friend or a Chinese partner, it's one of the most amazing feelings. And when we heard, of course, the Belt and Road Initiative, it just made perfect sense. It was a tool set that would allow people to connect in a more meaningful way. And it felt right, it felt timely, and I think it would be stupid not to jump into that new current.
What is your understanding of the Belt and Road Initiative?
It's connection. Connection
of what?
Connection of people and cultures, I would say.
Not business, not trade, not infrastructure?
That always happens. I think that's a side effect, so to speak. Opportunity is always there. But once you have to establish a relationship before you can share an opportunity together. And Belt and Road Initiative, I think it succeeds at both. Again, being an initiative, right? It's a very soft structure. And there's so many projects underneath it. It's very broad, it's a very trendy term. Yeah. But Belt and Road Initiative is that vein that allows to transcend that idea to other places. That opportunity is best when it is shared. So we are all more happy when we have a successful collaboration instead of being isolated in our own fear, thinking that something will be taken from us, or we're not going to share that same success. I wouldn't say that my case is unique, but there's many people like me that are on the same bandwagon. They don't know yet that it's called Belt and Road Initiative. Okay. So the spirit of Belt and Road Initiative was always there. It's just there's never been a structure that you can be a part of and feel supported. And I think that's what's very special about, that everyone can be part of it. Whether you're a foreigner here and you used to feel a little bit alien here, but now you can also tap back to your country and back and forth. Whether you're a Chinese studying abroad and thinking that you should stay there, but now you have the opportunity to come back as well. So it creates this, this mixing, this constant flow of ideas, thoughts, and stories.
How are you making the best use of this initiative to connect companies in China and in the Eurasian part of the world?
Before, it was just like deals here and there, let's say even before the Belt and Road Initiative. But they gave us, an insight, and we've built trust with our Russian counterparts, with our Tajiki counterparts, Kazakh counterparts. Right now we have projects from a lot of countries along the Belt Road Initiative. And it's easy for us because they're all post-USSR republics. So we kind of share a similar network today. Project by project, trust is being built very slowly, but we started with oil gas sector. One of our first clients actually was a medium-sized oil and gas company in Russia, and they heard about the Belt and Road Initiative, and they had a very interesting investment proposition in the downstream sector. And they were like, guys, can you help us out? How can we tap into these financial resources and into this vast, political incentive, right? So project by project, that one, they also had like a lot of trading ideas that they wanted to share with China, see if they can sell some products. So we helped them along their milestones, so to speak, and achieved good results.
Was it good?
It was good, but we're still, as consultants, you still operate in a particular field where you're affected by markets, right? So after oil price collapse, I would say a lot of oil deals are very difficult to manage, to do. A lot of people kind of pulled out and wanted to wait it out because it's a completely new reality from an energy perspective. So Belt and Road Initiative kind of helps that to move forward. So in the past 3 years, there have been 2 banks established, investment banks, that follow the Belt and Road Initiative, 1 regional bank. That's unprecedented. There's a lot of infrastructure projects happening, and slowly but surely, a lot of investment resources are opening up.
I wanted to pick up on what you said about the energy prices, and this is actually one of the questions people are asking, because we want to promote cooperation, let's say, with the Eurasian part of the world in energy sector. However, things would not always work out the way we wanted. For instance, when you have this kind of market factor that is uncontrollable, how can you still push forward the cooperation under the Belt and Road Initiative? And for companies that are working under this framework, what is your response to that?
I think that a lot of energy cooperation always revolves in the high echelons of power. So leaders are always involved, like big SOEs are involved, big state-run companies are involved. So this kind of collaboration was always there. It was been always present. People always kind of, sold oil here and there. It's just super tough, and it requires, of course, for example, President Putin to meet with President Xi and establish that level of connection. And only then energy ties are promoted. But Belt and Road Initiative opened a whole brand new market for small and medium-sized businesses. So we're not limited anymore to oil and gas industry or energy industry. Even though it's hindered by market conditions, I think Belt and Road Initiative opened up a lot of new projects in completely new sectors. Consumer, for example, or infrastructure projects. Again, there was also a huge tie to political will. But when it comes to tourism or cultural initiatives, this is all very new. And this is maybe not as profitable as huge energy projects, but for the people, it's more beneficial. And for cultural exchange, which I think is at the foundation, and it is the mission of Belt and Road Initiative, and it is something very emotional and close to our hearts, that is what is interesting. And this is the new kind of the new tools that it's bringing to the game.
You talk about cultural connections. Indeed, we have a lot of cultural affinity, let's say, with the former Soviet countries and with Central Asia. Do you think it is a convenience for us to how should you say, promote the initiative, or what could be the possible downsides in this part?
From my perspective as a Russian citizen, even though we have those ties, Russia has shifted so much to the west, and Moscow still is a European city, even though Siberia is right next door of China, it's right next to Harbin, right? Yeah. But all the political decisions are made in Moscow, and most businesses are focused on Europe. So for them to kind of change their daily habits, their daily even flight routes, you know, from where it's Moscow-London to Moscow-Beijing, it's very difficult, takes time. So I believe cultural events and cultural projects, that's what's going to change this, because there's so many channels and media talk about the differences we have. Yeah. But honestly, living here as a Russian citizen and traveling with Chinese back to Russia and all over the Belt Road Initiative countries, you realize that we're more similar than people speak about.
So are you doing something on the cultural front if you think this is really important?
We're doing something on the cultural front. We're helping out with a couple of initiatives connected with Expo in Astana 2017. And let's say providing the right marketing support to show our countries and unite them in a meaningful way. Again, to focus on things that are similar and not different. Luckily, in my free time, I had the opportunity a year ago to be part of a documentary made by CCTV about the ancient tea road, which was established, so to speak, in like early 18th century. And it used to be the second by volume after the Silk Road. And we had great cultural exchange, and the documentary revolved around going from Moscow all the way to Beijing by train, by cars, and we looked at sites which are of course not the cities they used to be before.
Since you established your company under the Belt and Road Initiative, or has it been difficult really, and where do you wish to get more support?
So the first client, as I was saying, at the oil gas company, they heard about the Belt and Road Initiative. As I said before, I think the speech that President Xi Jinping didn't just touch us, even though it was more relevant to us. I think everyone who heard it, they're like, oh, okay, this is new. This is something interesting. And it had a ripple effect. And of course, that allowed us to have more clients, because we have a very, let's say, niche market right now, because not everyone has the tool set and has the understanding of what the Belt Road Initiative is. But using, let's say, it as our main theme allows us, of course, to tap into much broader clientele.